so once I got the bark on my platform unrolled, I want to make sure I get rid of all the small bark and all this little lichen and gunk that's on the bark. I want it to be smooth, workable surface. I'm basically just scratching it, rubbing it, and then brushing it off, just like that. Clean out my work area. So this is my gun wheel frame. I'm going to use it as a frame for the bottom. Alright, once I'm happy with the location here, I'm going to throw some stuff on the frame and rocks just to help it hold in place. Right, I got all the 4 corners brought up. All my cuts are done. Alright, so what I'm doing now is everywhere I got these slits, I gotta trim them down so that they come and fit side to side instead of overlapping. So that you gotta trim down some of the bark. And then so once I'm done with that, I gotta do little stitches. See, now they're nice and equal. A little bit more off there at the top. Like that. It's pretty hard to trim. This bark's really thick, And then I'll do a stitch here, another stitch here, and yeah, so on and so forth. Alright, so you can see I finished trimming the bottom and sewing all the little stitches there. So now what I'm doing is I want to prepare a side panel, which will be made of winter bark to go up on each side, just to go higher. Then I'll need to stitch that in there with spruce root. So this is my other roll of bark there that I'm going to use. This, you can see the reddish color. I'm hoping it's winter bark, that I can do designs on it. If not, not a huge deal. So I just got to cut it right in the middle there and use one panel on each side of the canoe. T'as peu cher, papa il coupe son morceau. Qu'est-ce que t'as trouvé?
Un truc de jour.
Ah ouais. Regarde, tiens, une bibite.
Bébé?
Nice, it's big enough. Perfect. Okay, so I got the other side put in as well. Just kind of try to show you guys. So I got my my frame on the inside still. So what I'm doing is I'm jamming some little, basically some sticks like that are sharpened at the end. And I'm coming and I'm tying it off at the top here. So that what this does is it keeps my winter bark panel all equal. So as it dries, because right now it's wet, so I can give it the shape that I want. So as it dries, this will help keep it in shape. It won't like curl or crack. And then what I can do, I'm going to do after, is basically stitch with the spruce roots all along here, so that the two pieces of bark basically become one piece of bark. And yeah, so I'm just tying it off here with the cord. And this is all temporary, and once I'm done my stitching, I'll take this all out, but this helps hold everything in place while I work on the stitching. Need to add another one here because the bark wants to curl. Probably hard for you guys to see what the hell I'm doing, but I'm just adding a couple of sticks along the side here. This will help push on the bark from the inside of the canoe towards the outside. And then when I do my my root stitching, It'll be a double harness stitch because that's waterproof. I want both barks to be as much close to each other as possible. Basically weld them together, so you can see right here there's a space, but when I'll do the stitching, I want to have this stuck there close to the other one all along the side of the canoe, and just like that. See here, it's kind of open, so I'm going to add a level. It doesn't really matter at this point because as I'm stitching, that's going to help bring it together as well. I'm pretty happy with that. Got them on both sides. It's what's left of my winter bark sheet. Keep this preciously to make some baskets. Alright, let's start stitching the double harness stitch along the winter bark. Ooh. Là, il y a plusieurs options. Alright guys, we're making some progress on the canoe. So I finished the lashings. Go all the way there and connect the two pieces of bark. And the same thing on this side, double harness. Stitching there goes all along the side. Okay, so now the next step, I got my little blocks ready. So in the center I'm going at 7.5, 8.5 to the other thwart, 11, and then aiming for a 15 at the end of the canoe. Little blocks right here. So what I gotta do is I gotta take my frame out and take the rocks out, take everything out. Alright, so I got her done. Put the blocks underneath, raise the frame. Put the blocks underneath, I raise the frame. Right now, I'm at 10.5 inches here. I wasn't able to get it to 11, but 10.5 is looking pretty good. Just gotta measure how much I have here. I'm looking for about 15, 16 from the bottom of the bark to the bottom here. So I gotta do that. So I got this block's at 10.5, this one's at 8.5, and then the middle one's at 7.5. And the exact same thing on that side. Let's see here. So I'm at about 14 there, but if I go right to the front, at about 15 at the front, so that's pretty good. On the left side, I got that side pretty much done. The right side's not done yet. So just you can see the elevated blocks and the bark that's not stuck on that side. Then on this side, so this is what I've been working on. So I added, it's basically 1/4 inch wide, like it says in the Tapanani book. I'll show you guys what I'm going for. 1/4 inch wide, or 1/4 inch thick, and then quite a bit wide. And then so there's 2 pegs, a space, 2 pegs, a space, 2 pegs, a space, so on and so forth. And where there's pegs, these will be the root lashings. So it's the same basic idea as a spruce bark canoe. If you guys watch my spruce bark canoe video, so that's the spruce bark canoe right there. Have it in the garage. So this one, there's less ribs, so it's like a 2-inch lashing, and then it's a 6-inch space. But with this one, there's a lot more ribs, so I got 1.5 inches, and then 1.5 inches lashing, 1.5 inches space, 1.5 inches lashing, 1.5 inches space. So you got everything already marked on the frame. So this is the center thwart. This will be rib number 1, and then you got your root lashing, rib number 2, root lashing, rib number 3, root lashing, rib number 4, so on and so forth. 12 thwart. Then there should be about 16 ribs on each side, maybe 17. So for a total of 32 or 34 ribs. So this is the book, Bark Canoes and Skin Boats of North America, from Edwin Tapanani. Great book. So the model I'm trying to do is on page 110, 111. It's under the Tête de Boule hunting canoe. And basically over here is where it tells you. So this is basically the in whale, so the frame that goes on the inside. This is the bark. So my in whale frame is exactly this shape, 1 inch by 3/4 inches, and then this is 1/4 by 1 inch. And then later I'll add the top piece that protects the whole gunwales. So that's the piece right here. Should be about 1 inch. Yeah, I made it a little bit more than 1 inch, but that's fine. And then I think I made it a little bit more than 1/4. Just about 1/4, yeah. So, and you can see here just another thing, there's my winter bark. It's not super thick, but look at this summer bark, man. It's like very nice, very thick. pegged pretty much. Just gonna wait before I do the ends. So I gotta trim some of the bark off of this side so I can go in and clamp that properly. So I'm just getting rid of a bit of bark. Don't want to take off too much because later, anyways, I'll trim it to the exact height of the gun wheels. Alright, so now I'm gonna grab my outside gunwale, my out whale piece here. It's I made it smaller at the end, and then it's 1 inch wide in the 1 inch wide in the center, thinner at the other end. It's basically exactly the same as the one on this side. So you can see the one on this side, how it gets smaller there at the end. Yeah, so I had this. Yeah, I had this piece of this stick just soaking in the water for overnight so that it's a little bit more flexible. And that'll ultimately help me put it in here, because you don't want this thing to crack or break. Yeah, so on this thing you can see I marked here top and then the center. So I'll go right here in the center of the thwart because I want them to be equal on each side. Okay, so I'm gonna do centers here, but I'm gonna take off this piece of bark so I can see a little bit better what the hell is going on. This all has to be trimmed after anyways. I'm trying to make sure that both pieces of wood are even and level. Don't want it to be neither higher or lower. I guess if it's a little bit higher I can always trim them down, but just making some square pegs to go in the round holes. I think pegs are very, very underrated skill or thing. When I first started making these, I figured, you know, just smaller at one end and bigger at the other end. Simple, right? But no, they have to go bigger at a very very low angle. They have to gradually go bigger,
because if it's too small at the one end and then too big at the other end, there's no tension, like it doesn't hold in the hole. Because if it's big at the one end, it just basically holds at the big end, and the small end doesn't have any contact with the hole. So you gotta diminish it very equally. And then if you make them too small, they don't hold. And if you make them too big, then your wood that is going in the other piece of wood, will crack because it's too big, and it's so. And then I try to choose wood that doesn't have any knots and that's straight grained. Because if you have a knot in this peg, when you hammer it down, probably gonna crack or snap at that knot instead of going in. Just double checking where I wanna put my pegs, and my writing faded off. I'm just making sure it's nice and visible so I don't make a hole in the wrong spot. 11, 12, rib number 12, thwart, so that's X there, another X here, after 13. Gonna have to trim this bark quite a bit because they're overlapping there. 17. Alright guys, so today, next step, basically I took all the blocks out. I finished pegging both sides to pretty much to the ends on each side. So now the next step, I took the blocks out. Now all I gotta do, use my little saw here on my Leatherman, and I'm gonna cut off all the excess pegs. And then with the knife, after that, I'm just gonna trim off the excess bark that's basically here, and then I'll get ready to do the root lashings. Now, a lot of these steps, there's nothing really super exciting, but they're very time consuming. So everywhere that there's a peg, like I said, after that I'm gonna have to lash with roots. So that's gonna take quite a while. Since there's should be something like 80 lashings or so. Each lashing will probably take me 5-10 minutes. It's so nice now, it's actually looking like a canoe. Super exciting. Super happy with it so far. Man, this bark is just so thick. It's so hard to cut. Just gotta be patient and slow.